Mother outed her affair and dragged me into it, blaming me for hiding it. Now my family's turned against me, including my husband. My life is a complete train wreck right now, and that is all because of my mother. I don't think I have ever hated anyone more than I hate her. She has always been a lying, cunning, narcissistic piece of who only cares about herself. Had I known that this is what it would come down to, I would have cut her off ages ago. I have no idea what to do, and I have nowhere to go. I have lost my family because of her, and nobody is willing to believe anything that I have to say. I have no face left to defend myself, and everything that I know is completely ruined. I had a rough childhood. I have an elder brother, but he is quite older than me, so we never really bonded a lot. I, female 23, have an 11-year gap with my brother Sean, male 34. My parents had Sean very young. My mother was 20 and my father was 23 when they had him. And they had only wanted a son. They were very sure about it. The family was supposed to be only mom, dad, and Sean. Their reasoning was that they would have a kid young, and then they would be able to care for and provide for him better. And once he was grown up, they would still be kind of young and would be able to enjoy their lives together. This was the motivation that had led them to have Sean young. But I came as a surprise. I was the result of an unplanned pregnancy, and neither of them had really wanted to be parents for a second time. And I have always been made aware of this fact. I have been told, ever since I was a kid, that I was the extra member. That's how I was treated, too, especially by my mother. Dad says that while they hadn't planned for me, he couldn't have asked for anything else because he loves me more than anything else in the world. And I know he does. Because while on one hand, he admits the truth of the matter, on the other hand, he has always loved me, and been there for me. I have never had any reason to complain when it comes to him. My mother has been an entirely different story altogether. By the time I was 6 or 7, I had come to realize that my mother just couldn't stand me. She hated my guts, and she didn't even try to hide her disdain. Mom and Dad had several fights about this, but her treatment of me never really changed. There were temporary improvements, right after the fights, but they would last for a maximum of 2 to 3 weeks, and then things would go back to what they were. This was the norm for most of my childhood, but things suddenly changed when I turned 11. I remember this day distinctly, and the memory has been etched onto my mind forever. I was supposed to go to school that day, but I told Dad that I did not feel like going at all. There was a math test I was dreading, and I just did not want to sit for it. Thankfully, Dad understood. He was the one who got me ready for school anyway, so he told me to sit quietly till the time Mom didn't go to work, which was around 10, and we would pretend that I had gone to school. Mom wouldn't have allowed me to skip class, and she used to say because she thought that school is important for children, but that was the day I realized why exactly Mom did not want me to stay back home. Around 10, Mom left for work. By 10:30 I was out of my room and watching TV downstairs. It was like having a mini party for myself. Around an hour later, I was about to go back to my room when I heard the keys jangling outside. I froze for a minute because I thought somebody was going to break into the house. I don't know what exactly I was thinking, but instead of running upstairs, I went back downstairs and hid beneath the sofa. That was a rookie mistake, and I have been traumatized by that damn sofa ever since. I saw 2 people enter the house, and one of them was my mom, I was sure. From what I could see from beneath the sofa, I recognized her shoes, and then her voice. I was also 100% certain that the man in the room was not my father. He was reeking of something that I years later realized was alcohol. I could very well imagine what they were doing on the couch, and I have never been more disgusted in my entire life. I was so scared. I didn't know if I should stay there or get out. If I stayed there, I'd have to listen to whatever the hell was happening, and if I got out, I knew that Mom would yell at me for skipping school. I tried to stay put for as long as I could manage, but it was just not humanly possible for me to sit there and endure all that. I don't know what came over me, but I crawled out of the sofa screaming like a mad elephant. My eyes were closed, and I just kept on yelling and ran upstairs. I slammed my bedroom door shut and I broke down crying. I still vividly remember that day, and I still can't get myself to talk about it or vent properly, even though it has been so many years. I was sobbing in bed that day, and I don't even remember when I fell asleep. I woke up to someone banging on my door and I knew it had to be Mom. I didn't say anything, and she threatened me and said she wouldn't give me food and let me go to school if I didn't open the door. I have never been as terrified as I was that day. When I went out, she grabbed me by the arm and told me that if I ever told anyone what I had seen, she would deny it tooth and nail, and then I would just be a little liar, and Dad would throw me out of the house because he hates liars. I tried to be as brave as I could, and I told her that I would tell Dad or Sean regardless, but she just slapped me and told me that if I said anything, I would tear the family apart and end up homeless. I know now that she was bluffing, but I was terrified. I believed her as a kid, though I shouldn't have. But I did. I believed every word she said and felt that if I did in fact end up spilling the beans, she would genuinely throw me out of the house, and I would be the reason why the family was torn apart. I was in tears and I told her that I would never utter a single word. And I kept that promise like an oath for years and years. But as I grew up, I started getting braver. I gradually understood that she actually had no power over me and that if I decided to tell Dad, there was nothing that she could do. By the time I turned 16, I had made up my mind that I was going to tell Dad about what I said. I had never seen it happen again, in her defense, and for all I knew she had probably broken it off with whoever the guy was, but I still knew, and I knew that I had to do something about it. I don't know how, but somehow, Mom got a whiff that I was planning this. Maybe my demeanor gave it away, I don't know, but something sure did. Because one day, she came to me in tears and tried to tell me how sorry she was about what she had done, and that she could finally talk to me like an adult because I was a grown woman now. I shouldn't have fallen for her ruse, but I did. I thought I was very smart, but I wasn't, and she played me like a fool. I should have known that this was a vile and narcissistic woman that I was dealing with, and no amount of crocodile tears that she shed was worth anything. Anyway, so she told me that she was very remorseful about what happened and that it was just that once, and that something like that has never happened again, and she doesn't know why she did what she did. Basically, it was a textbook narc apology, where she tried every single thing to deflect blame onto someone else and victimize herself. Fortunately for her, I fell for it. I believed her when she said that she had never contacted that guy again, and I had a heartfelt conversation with her where both of us cried. I later realized that it was heartfelt only from my side lol. After that day, I decided to bury the hatchet and thought to myself that there was literally no point in telling Dad or Sean after all these years because the time was long gone and she seemed sorry about it. I had thought that both she and I would take the secret to the grave for the sake of the family, but I have never been more wrong in my life. After my talk with her, things between me and her got better for a while. It felt easier to be around her, and I didn't have the weight of her sin on my shoulders. And then 2 years later, I left for college. In college, I started distancing myself from my family. I didn't mean to do it intentionally, but it just happened. I enjoyed it so much, and I realized a living space could actually be stress-free and not constantly weigh on me for no reason. I think I never talked to Mom for more than 5 minutes after that, and I could sense that would piss her off, but I was too unbothered to even care. I made sure to make time for Dad because he was my preferred parent anyway. In college, I met my husband William Will, now 27 male. He is a close friend's brother and was working when I was in college. We took our time with dating, but it was pretty soon into the relationship that I knew he was the one. We shared everything with each other, our deepest secrets, our families, and everything. The biggest mistake of my life has been not telling him about the entire Mom affair, and now, it has come to bite me in the ass. And it is my fault, I should have told him. I took my promise to Mom of taking this secret to the grave a little too seriously, and because of that, my life as I know it is completely ruined. Very early on in our relationship, Will had told me that cheating was a complete non-negotiable for him. There was no way he would tolerate any kind of cheating, and at the slightest infidelity, he would leave. That actually came as a huge relief to me, because given what I had seen when I was growing up, I was very wary of romantic relationships, and somewhere deep down I naturally assumed that everyone cheats, or most people don't think of cheating as a big deal. To find a partner who would never condone cheating was a blessing in disguise, especially for me because I had a lot of trauma surrounding it anyway. There had been multiple moments in the relationship where I had had the opportunity to tell him about this part of my childhood, but I never did. I feel that was wrong on my part and unfair to him because he had shared everything about his childhood with me. All his traumas, all his issues, everything. I should have done the same. He is my partner and he needed to know. All that I had told him was that I had a somewhat strained relationship with my mother because she favored her son, and that we had differences of opinion on a lot of issues growing up. Had I told him what the real issue was, things would have been so much better, and I would not have been left alone by the one person who is supposed to love me the most. But I can't even blame him. It's not his fault. It's just my stupidity and my mother's vileness and vindictiveness that have come together and ruined my life. I got married to Will a little under a year ago. My parents like him, and they share a somewhat good relationship with him. Even Sean holds him in high regard, and they stay in sporadic communication, so much so that my relationship with my own brother has improved because of my husband. Even Sean's family likes me, I think, and I have never been given any reason to believe that they do not approve of me, so there is that. All in all, he and I have been fairly happy on all fronts, and there are no issues with our families either. But 2 weeks ago, Dad called me up and said that he wanted Will and me to come home and that it was urgent. He said that he would send tickets across if need be, but that he needed us to be home that day itself. I didn't know what had happened, and he wouldn't reveal anything more. I got worried because it sounded a lot like a medical emergency, the way he sounded. I called Sean up and he said that Dad had called him and his wife, too, and that he did not know anything else. I reached home that day and I had a horrible feeling about it all. I knew something was wrong, and if it wasn't, it would soon be. You know that sinking feeling that you have in your stomach when you know that something bad is going to happen. You can sense it but can't exactly pinpoint what it will be. That was what I was feeling at that point in time. We went inside and it was eerily quiet in the house. Dad looked as if he had been crying nonstop. His eyes were swollen and his face was puffy, and Mom was in another room, staring blankly into space. I asked Dad what was up, and he didn't say anything but started engaging in small talk with us. It was very worrying, and I didn't know what had happened. I asked Mom and she said that she would tell me what was up soon enough. Nothing happened that night because I think Sean couldn't make it till very late into the night, and by then all of us were tired. Early the next morning, Mom dropped the bomb. She said that all of us had gathered here because there was something that she wanted to share with everyone, and even though she would have preferred not to do it this way, it was Dad's insistence that was making her take this route. She said that Dad had decided to divorce her because she had been having an affair for the past couple of years. The moment she said that, I could feel my body getting numb. I looked at her, but she was looking everywhere except at me. I just could not believe what she was saying. All those tears, all that emotional drama those years ago was actually nothing. It meant nothing to her. I didn't even know if this was the same man or not. I just knew that she was a serial cheater and a pathological liar, and that nothing else about her mattered to me at that moment. But then, what she said next completely shook me off my feet. She said that the affair was not as big of a secret as Dad was claiming it to be, and that she had been involved with her affair partner, whom she called the love of her life, for a long while now. And all this time, she said, that I had known all about it, and even encouraged her to go for it. I didn't even know how to react. I looked across at my dad and he was just looking at me with tears in his eyes, and I don't know what happened, but it was like a switch in my brain flipped. I got up and started yelling and said that what she was saying was a lie. I had never encouraged anything and she started yelling at me for talking over her. I don't think we were coherent beyond that point, and honestly, to me, it didn't matter, because in that moment, I am not kidding, I wanted to strangle my own mother. It just kept on getting heated between us, and I swear there came a point where I almost slapped her and had to be physically restrained. Nothing happened, but it would have, and in all honesty, I wouldn't have regretted it. By the time people pulled us apart, she had somehow driven home the point that I had known about the affair all along, and I was the one who had helped her hide it for years and years. I kept on denying what she said, and after a point, I wasn't even interested in responding to her. I went straight to Dad and begged him to listen to me. He said that he would, but in his own time, because he was distraught and exhausted. That was the longest night of my life and I didn't sleep a wink. Nobody was talking to me, not even Will. I had initially thought that he didn't know what to say, but now once so much time has passed, I know this has rubbed him the wrong way. When I went downstairs the next morning, Mom told us that Dad had packed a suitcase and left and that it was time that we left, too. I had a verbal spat with her again, but there was no point because the damage was already done. We came back home. I have tried to get in touch with Dad since then, but he hasn't been responding much beyond 2 or 3 words. I told him that I had to talk to him about this, but he insisted that he would reach out himself. It has been around 10 days that we have been back home, and I am a complete mess. I am worried sick about Dad, and while Will has been supportive, he has been aloof, too. I don't even have the energy to ask him what's up because I am too embroiled in my own drama, and right now I need his support. I have blocked Mom everywhere because she has literally ruined my life. I tried to get in touch with Sean, but he has been short with me, too. I mean, I can't really blame any of them. They are believing the version Mom has fed them, and I can only blame myself for not having the chance. It would have saved all of us so much grief. I was so foolish to believe her when she said that it was all over. I should have stood up for Dad, I should have said something. Part of me feels that I am not that much in the wrong here because I was still a child when this happened. But another part of me can't help but wonder that maybe this is how God is punishing me for helping a stranger and keeping her secret. Even as a young girl, I knew what my mother was doing was wrong. I knew that I was wrong in keeping silent. Maybe I should have been brave then, and maybe this is the price that I am paying for my cowardice. I just don't know what to do anymore, and I don't know how I will be able to get past this. Update 1. The drama in my life just doesn't stop. Dad is back home and Mom and are going forward with the divorce. He finally spoke to me, and I told him that I needed to meet him and talk to him in person. He will be coming down to my city over the weekend, and I felt so much relief because I could finally get him to know my side of the story, the real side of the story. But little did I know that this relief was going to be short-lived. Just after I cut the call with Dad, Will came to me and said that he wanted to talk to me about something very important. I had no idea what was coming for me. He said that ever since Mom had revealed everything to the family, he couldn't help but wonder why I never told Dad, and that he somewhere believed that I was complicit in Mom's cheating. He said that I had the opportunity to confide in my older brother. He was a lot older and he would have known what to do, but I stayed mum all these years. He said that all that just rubbed him off the wrong way, and he felt that I was someone who would condone cheating, or even hide it. And in his weird brain, he somehow equates that with me having the propensity to cheat. He said that if I could hide her affair for all those years, I could also cheat, and that he was very uncomfortable with that idea. I told him that my mom had told me that she had stopped, but he insisted that I still had a moral responsibility towards my dad, which I agree with. He just says that he is rethinking our entire marriage after this incident, and he can't help but feel that I have deceived him in a way, because I had always known that he had strong views about cheating and that I should have come clean to him right there and then. We haven't spoken much since then, and now I don't know what to do. It is just one issue on top of another, all coming crashing down at one go to ruin my life. I finally had 5 brief seconds of calm when I spoke to Dad, and now this. I don't even know which issue to address word. Well, looks like he has made up his mind, and I don't know what else I can say to assuage his fears. Even though he didn't directly say it, I know somewhere deep down he doubts my version of the story, and genuinely believes that maybe I did help Mom hide it for all these years. And if that is the case, I really don't know what I can say or do to make it better and make him understand that I am being framed and that none of this is true. My life has become a complete nightmare in the course of a month, and I don't know what to do. I just want someone to pinch me awake so that things can go back to what they were. This is torturous. I have to meet Dad, and I need some clarity of thought, but with Will dropping this bomb on me, God alone knows how the hell am I going to go over there and face Dad. What I do know is that at this point in time, I need to prioritize my father, and I need him to know what really happened. If the time that it takes is enough for Will to take a decision about us, then that's that. But I can't sabotage it with Dad any further. It has taken me a lot of begging to get him to agree to meet me, and now I'm going to throw all that away just because my own husband doesn't believe me. I hope everything turns out well, but with how things seem at the moment, that is a far-fetched dream, and I am no fool to believe in it. Update 2. Dad and I met, and I told him everything. Surprisingly, Sean was there, too. I won't go into the details of the conversation, but it was long and heart-wrenching for all 3 of us. There were a lot of tears, a lot of tissues, but thankfully I was able to clear the air and tell them my side of the story. And to my surprise, Dad believed it in an instant. I asked him why, because I had become so used to everyone accusing me of being the homewrecker. He said that I was a kid, and I did what I thought best. And that Mom had again manipulated everyone into making me the villain, for hiding it, and as an 11-year-old kid nonetheless, rather than taking ownership for what she had done. He told me firmly in no uncertain terms, that she was the one who was the homewrecker, and not me. And this was not the first time that it happened. A few years after I was born, Sean had seen Mom with someone, too, and he had told Dad. When Dad confronted Mom, she made it horrible for Sean. So Dad said he was glad that I did what I did because he couldn't bear the thought of her mistreating me. Sean looked broken, and he apologized profusely for not standing up for me that day, but he said that the entire confrontation brought back so many flashbacks for him that he was just frozen. I honestly don't know why he was apologizing. He had done nothing wrong at all, and if I had been in his shoes, I would have done the same thing as him. The intervention went well, and both Sean and I are trying to convince Dad to make the divorce difficult for her and ensure that she doesn't mooch off of him. He isn't petty like that, so I know he isn't going to listen to us, but I wish he did. My mother is the vilest woman I have ever had the misfortune of coming across, and I pray every night that I don't end up like her. She deserves to rot in hell for what she has put us through, and there can be no redemption or forgiveness for her. Not a single person in the family has been spared her infidelity and toxicity, and she wears them like a badge of honor. She is so twisted in the head, I think she needs help. God bless her partner, because I really don't know how he is going to put up with her. Sean and I have decided to cut her off completely. There is nothing that we have to say to her. I feel so relieved that at least this front is sorted. I now have another battle to fight, and even though I am drained and exhausted, and I hope I can wish it away, I know that I can't, and I have to face the situation head on. Update 3. This will be my final update. Before I could talk to Will, Sean had already spoken to him. I hadn't told Sean much, but I guess he thought it was his responsibility to help me out where he could. Sean told Will about him facing the same thing with Mom that I had. I still don't know the particular details of their conversations, but I know that it was effective enough because Will came to me in tears and apologized for doubting me. I didn't even have to do anything. We sat down and I told him everything, in detail, and he just held me while I narrated all the trauma that I had faced and hugged me as I cried. I finally felt like he was there to listen to me, and not to accuse me of being a bad person, because I had spent the majority of my life feeling like a bad person anyway. Things are much better between us, and he realized that he took the entire revelation very poorly, and instead of being supportive made things more problematic for me. I honestly don't even care about all that. In an ideal world, yes, he should have been supportive, but let's face it, none of this is ideal. He had a human reaction, one that I did not like, but I am grateful that he at least had the willingness to see things from my perspective and be open to reason. I was so scared that I would lose my marriage to this, and that was a price I was just not willing to pay. But I am glad that it did not go that far, rather, this has made our bond even stronger. I just hope